Here's the way I test hair loss when I shampoo my hair, because then the foam from the shampoo allows me to see the contrast of the hairs very easily. So as you can see, there's
What's up guys, Derek, moreplays.com. Today we're going to be talking about Primobolan and its effect on hair loss. How bad is it? This is known as one of the more tissue selective compounds, one of the arguably the most well-tolerated anabolic agent of all time. It's one of the most refined anabolic steroids ever created. It is well tolerated in women. Clinically, it is well tolerated in men. Clinically, as well as, anecdotally, in all the blood work, it's fairly forgiving relative to certain other compounds that are, popularly deployed on a regular basis. And it's just like one of the cleanest agents you can use, basically. And it's, known as one of the more hair-safe DHT derivatives. But how hair-safe is it in practical application? So throughout my research, a lot of this stuff is anecdotal and just like gathering evidence too, because it's not like there is a study evaluating, like hair counts in the anagen phase, blah, 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 when you're comparing like one person on this compound versus one person on this compound. And it also doesn't take into account people using testosterone as a base, and then, things crushing SHBG and freeing up more DHT than would otherwise be present, and making the test like way more problematic for your hair than it would otherwise be on its own, and things like this. But there was an interesting experiment done recently by Tony Huge. So I don't know if he's still on YouTube, but if he is, he has interesting experiments here and there. And he posted this on his Instagram story the other day.
Yeah. Here's the way I test hair loss when I shampoo my hair, because then the foam from the shampoo allows me to see the contrast of the hairs very easily. So as you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. About 17 hairs fell out from my head just from running my fingers through my hair, despite my hair growth protocol. So I'm definitely shedding a lot of hair on Primobolan. Back to SARMs, back to prioritizing health after the experiments I did, especially also for the hairline, since I didn't lose any hair on Proviron, Mastrone, or Winstrol. It was only the megadosing Primobolan that my hair started to fall out. I don't think I'll lose any hair on the SARMs. I did a long time ago when I first started taking the Rad 140, but again, I don't think it was the Rad 140 that directly caused the hair loss, or the S23. I think it was just that it made me like energized and anxious, and I already have a lot of stress, so like adding to stress, and stress causes me more hair loss. And it depends a lot on where I am in life. Like, I'm in an environment that's a lot less stressful now. I get away with probably taking a lot more compounds that cause me anxiety without having the hair loss side effect.
Okay, so obviously in his case, Primo wasn't very hair safe. However, he was using 1.5 grams of it, which is a shit ton. So can you attribute the hair loss to just the sheer dosage, or the fact that it's inherently not hair safe? So honestly, this is like one of the least scientific videos ever, but it was still a very interesting experiment that might as well be reported, because it could help lend to the evidence, leading us in the direction to figure it out or not. One thing to note is, so his experiment wasn't isolated. He was on a base of about 350 milligrams of test, which is quite a bit. But Tony doesn't really get, so obviously, he doesn't have a perfect hairline. He doesn't seem to progress much further gone than he is, though, with his like base, like generous HRT stack essentially. So when he throws something in, he's able to gauge with fairly reasonable accuracy if it's making his hair worse or not. And he seems pretty stable otherwise when he's on HRT. So when he threw in the Primo, he wasn't really doing it for the hair loss side of it. That's what I, was interested in. He did it more so to see what it can do from a cosmetic, a muscle detail standpoint, actual like contractile tissue accrual, all the main, like flagship markers normal people want to know about. How good is it at building muscle and how good does it make you look rather than does it cause hair loss or not? What a lot of people want to know, and he basically found that 400 to 600 milligrams and even up to 800 milligrams, he didn't really like notice a significant difference, but he's also somebody who looks for like short-term changes as opposed to like long-term, quality progress over a long span of time. He's more so like, get in there and like get quality work done as quickly as possible kind of thing, even if it has a slightly higher risk profile, I would say. He may disagree on that, but basically it sounds like the consensus on the muscle growth part is like, a moderate dose of Primo in the long term is favorable from a muscle accrual standpoint with a relative lack of destroying health markers in contrast to other anabolic agents traditionally chosen for off seasons. With that being said, he found that, the hair shedding was brutal. And I was asking him, have you ever tried it on its own with exogenous estradiol? And he said, no, that's a good idea. And somebody should do that experiment. And I was like, yeah. Personally, though, I've thought about it too. And just the anecdotal reports I've seen, it doesn't seem to be the most hair safe compound. And some individuals report that it's more hair safe than even nandrolone, or D-bol, or some of the other things that are commonly seen as, either things with low AR binding affinity or things that just have like high tissue selectivity or 5-alpha reduced into less androgenic metabolites or whatever. Of the agents that seem to be the most hair safe, Primo is often thrown into the mix along things like Anavar and stuff like that. But just personally, some people seem to think it is good for hair loss in a hair loss context. And I've heard of some individuals who even would use it as, like a makeshift HRT with exogenous estradiol. And this is, some of the stuff I was delving into back when I was looking at nandrolone monotherapy and I had considered the Primo, but just the evidence accumulating seems to suggest that Primo, and this is sort of extrapolating, like you could say, oh, like 1500 milligrams of anything is going to cause hair loss, obviously. But first of all, just the report using 1500 milligrams, it's worth making a video about. He basically said it's basically like the equivalent, in his words, is like using a SARM on his body composition for like short-term cosmetic look, I guess. And a lot of what SARMs do, I think, boil down to the tissue selectivity, but also you have to consider they crush SHBG into the ground, which frees up more T and DHT if you're on a test base, which then consequently increases the level of, like muscle hardening you would get and the cosmetic, androgenicity of the compound, because you no longer have that regulating mechanism to, prevent DHT from flying around and doing what it does. Because at the end of the day, DHT has a 5 times higher affinity for SHBG than test. So if you're crushing your SHBG with an oral SARM, expectedly, the 5-alpha reduction into DHT, you're going to have way more, even if you have the same amount of total DHT, the amount of free that's going to be freed up as a result of getting rid of SHBG is going to be a massive amount. So it's not just the SARM is doing something, in my opinion. I think it's also that it is doing something concurrently with the test that sort of doesn't necessarily enhance it to make it better. It depends on your perspective of what destroying your SHBG is, because it's not good to have your SHBG in the toilet, obviously. But just from like a pure androgenic context and the effect it's going to have on your body composition, yeah, you're going to see like a massive drying out, like androgenic look when you drop your SHBG. So anyway, he basically said that Primo seems like, like SARMs essentially. And, that's not a long-term gauge though, but he also doesn't think it's hair safe. And he's used, titrating dosages all the way up to 1500 milligrams. So I think he has a pretty good gauge on if it's hair safe or not for him. Like he's used pretty much everything under the sun. And he knows what hurts his hair and doesn't hurt his hair. So the fact that this, very seldom does he report about hair loss where he notices like a blatant increase above and beyond his current rate of loss or his current baseline. And, he's reported it with S23 before. He's reported it with Primo now. He doesn't report it very often though. So the fact that this came up even as a topic of conversation, really makes me think about in a serious way, is this something that is as hair safe as it is as it should be on paper. So I don't really know. I'd be interested to see some people who've tried Primo HRT with exogenous estradiol and no test, come out and give their anecdotal reports on what they found, especially guys who are hair loss prone who've tried it. Because personally, this is probably not something I'm going to be experimenting with myself when just anecdotally, it feels like it would be a waste when I've already seen too many reports now of the hair loss from it. Like, it's an overwhelming majority is just like not there in terms of it being a favorable choice in a hair loss context. So, as far as something that's, like easy on the body, like quote unquote for anabolics and is like favorable from a tolerability and, like risk standpoint, it seems it has a lot of benefits over a lot of other compounds. But as far as the hair loss component, I'm not sold on it, and it seems a bit risky. So that's my stance. Take from that what you will. If you have any experiences with it, especially solo is the main thing, because obviously once you throw something on top of test, it's hard to attribute it solely to the Primo doing something when you have test in the mix too, when there's factors that are going to be interfering, like AR competition, SHBG, things that have to do with your estrogen metabolism, blah, blah, blah. A lot of things that are kind of go out the window in terms of a controlled experiment when you have testosterone and the Primo in the mix. So I'd be interested if anyone has Primo plus estrogen feedback that is hair loss prone otherwise with, like TRT test. That would be super insightful and would help us all, learn a bit more. So let me know in the comments down below. If not, drop an algorithm comment, because those help the algorithm and help push it to a new audience, the video. So those are much appreciated. Please like and subscribe. Check me out on Instagram. Follow me there at @moreplates_more_dates, Facebook, Snapchat, BitChute, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts, wherever I am. If you want to support the channel, check out my TRT clinic. Link in the description below. If you are seeking TRT, it's super convenient. It's all telemedicine, Skype, FaceTime, Zoom. All you got to do is, if you haven't got existing blood work, if you have existing blood work, you can just send them that. If you don't, you can go get your bloods drawn. They go through them with you A to Z and address any, imbalances or deficiencies that show up. And then you talk to our doctor over, like I said, Skype, FaceTime, Zoom. It's all super convenient from the comfort of your own home. And then you can get prescribed whatever medication may be warranted for your individual situation. And you can save $50 off your first treatment with MPMD50 coupon code. If you want to support the nootropic and pre-workout formulas I developed, Gorilla Mind, Gorilla Mode. Gorilla Mind, amazing for productivity, focus, energy, mental clarity, getting up and after it. Honestly, no formula comes close in the nootropics niche for information retention, cramming for exams, preparing for business presentations, whatever it is that you need that mental edge. They excel in that above and beyond what else is available in the industry, in my opinion. And, I write these up from scratch myself, so I firmly believe in them, obviously, and I use them myself to stay locked in for 16+ hour workdays. And our pre-workout formulas, Gorilla Mode and Gorilla Mode Nitric. Gorilla Mode is the stimulant-based version, and Gorilla Mode Nitric is the stimulant-free version. I compel you to just compare the labels to your existing pre-workout, whatever you're using. And, it's pretty transparent, in my opinion, how stacked ours are in comparison. So check those out. And anything else I'm associated with, check it out, video description below. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.